All right, so I'm going to get back into covering current affairs and news, not just what's taking place within my own personal life. Okay, so we're 8 months into the year of 2026, and in this year in which I've been displaced, at least for about 3 months, I've been covering what I've been going through, but what I've been going through is synchronized with what's going on with the world. And unfortunately, before I left an abusive situation in Texas, she would be flipping out on me also at the same time period in which certain things would be rising in the news that were a sign of greater levels of racial persecution, hate crimes, and things of that nature. Right? So it's very important that people understand their goal of deporting 100 million Americans, which is more than 1 in 3, but there aren't that many foreigners. So, what we have clearly, before we show you a couple headlines, is a super cold reptilian like society that is faced with those facts and what they're doing behind closed doors, and it doesn't want to help the cause. And it doesn't want people near them that are aware of what's going on. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you some of the headlines that are out there real quick. So I'll just get in the habit of covering a few things. This one's called Stephen Miller's Impossible America from Prospect.org. The ethno nationalist strategy for white replenishment won't work. Well, that's by Paul Starr. The problem with people that are set in their ways with denying the obvious and denying the reality of history repeating itself is they make an enemy out of people like me that are long term visionaries that have the intelligence to see the obvious. And they're fighting that. They're fighting that tooth and nail. But let's go ahead and see what he has to say. Okay. It is citing the New Year's Eve, on New Year's Eve, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, posted an image online of a inviting deserted beach with a classic mid-20th car parked on the sand. In the sky were the words America after 100 million deportations, and above the image was a caption, the peace of a nation no longer besieged by the third world. But there aren't that many immigrants. So when we talk about how they're going to pull this off with technology, with cell phones, with tracking, what ICE will be doing in the future, by the way, which now has electric gloves, which can shock you. And as we see more of these stories coming out about people basically being tortured behind closed doors, having tubes forced down their esophagus, and you're not going to see anybody in the new age movement say anything about their plight. Okay. Um, so it acknowledges that fantasy scenario of the removal of more than a quarter of the U.S. population, or I say 1/3, didn't come from a troll. It was posted on X by the official feed of the federal agency charged with immigration enforcement. Continuing on, he writes, there's that euphemism, third world again, and so much more discreet than the explicit racial terms that his forerunners used when they shut down immigration a century ago. Now, in past podcasts, I've also talked about 100-year cycles, right? So we're dealing with a 100-year cycle. We see parallels in things that happened 100 years ago and things that happened 100 years later. So we have 1945 and we have what's coming with 2045. And everything is building up to a grand finale. And right now we're right on par with things mirroring what happened 100 years ago. And even when we talk about COVID lockdowns and that type of control, we also have the echoes of a 100-year cycle. Okay. Now, I don't even cover this news anymore right now because I've been so focused on my own story. But right now, I want to be focused on the news, not my own story. Because in my story is what's happening over here, and in what's happening over here is my own story and the story of my life. It is the same story if one is objective enough to look at a lifetime of constantly being pushed out from family to circles. So I actually don't want to read all this because it's going to be sensitive to the people around me. But you see what I'm highlighting here, and that's what they want. They want more because they're planning something big. And they want to have as many humans as possible ready to go when they command them to war. Okay, so let's go to the next headline. The 100 million expulsions promise from ESI. We'll just read a headline or two. On December 28, 2025, Elon Musk, owner of X, reposted a message to millions of people, adding just one word, wow. And then it's continuing those particular statistics, replaced by the third world, it's all by design. What is by design is what they call weaponized migration. The same individuals and intelligences, I'm tired of explaining this to people, that have orchestrated the wars to begin with, and the bombings, also control immigration, and they have never done anything in the way it should have been. Nobody understands what I'm talking about, so let's just continue to go into this. So, of course, Elon Musk, there's a space agenda there that I've warned about. That it's not just him, we also have Bezos and Amazon. And that whole thing that they're planning up in space, the space station, something like that, seems to be the extension of a breeding program or a hybrid program. It doesn't seem like they're going to get to Mars, but they definitely are already working, like with that stunt they pulled a couple years ago with, what was it, Blue Origin, one of the companies also, with William Shatner, who's a household name with, of course, the Star Trek show. So years after making the prediction that they would go in a certain direction, they're having this movement to tell people, yeah, they'll have a multi-species society, one up in space, that does, what it does with space wars and space weapons, but we shouldn't be concerned. And then we have what's happening down here on Earth. It's reading like something out of a Philip K. Dick novel. This is the New York Times. Trump's immigration policy echoes 1920s turn against certain newcomers. Now, I just clicked on that at random, and I was just talking about a 100-year cycle. So, yeah, it is like, not only are there events happening that happened 100 years ago, I was thinking this when I lived on my own land at Pagosa Springs, which is right near Bayfield, which is a real interesting place. You should check it out sometime. It's real close to Durango. That there are basically spirits of the past that have done things in the past that weren't right, that they want back in control. And they will do things to try to control their descendants. So not all forms of ancestor veneration is a good thing. Some things that people talk about, like Laura Starr, that deal with clearings and whatnot, well, it's for a reason. Because we're seeing the return of old behaviors that happened thousands of years ago. Like people lopping people's heads off out of instinct. Instinct that doesn't make sense to us, but surely is making sense right now to the people of Ireland, UK, Germany, which are completely following the commandments of social media to kill, 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 as Metallica sang in 1981. Continuing on, let's go ahead and take a look at what's on the front page of Google, but also when you look at it, it's what they're not saying. Right, about the mosque being burned in Dublin. And so as I warned about, as we got closer to this eclipse, they're actually going open season on families and children. Okay, they're going open season in these places, and the IRA is declaring that they're going to have a civil war. Let's go ahead and bring that up. If the government doesn't yield to their demands to get rid of everybody. So, as you see these alignments, as I told you about, as Burl Payne wrote about, the late Burl Payne, who, like me, talked about the solar flare influence over wars and human aggression. He talked about when the planets align. Here we go. And we're back here. That when the planets align, and right now we have an alignment with Mars, and we have a meteor shower, and we have a total solar eclipse, and then we have geometric storms, and we have a new moon. So those are at least 5 heavy elements. To the New Agers, it's just a wonderful time to be alive. Everything's exciting. It's 2012. But in the real world, where we're grounded, where we're dealing with facts and figures, we're witnessing something that's worse than Nazi Germany was reported to be, actually. And Facebook, which so many of these people love, trust to guide their lives and to guide their news, is just pushing the envelope. The only people you can blame for any sexual assault are people that look a certain way and they have a skin tone, don't you know? And so we're living in a day and age where they can go after this group, that group, that group, that group, and anybody intelligent, run, little piggy, run. You see? And we'll continue also after this video to talk about Crestone as we continue to talk about why Crestone and Salida are filled with people who are the fakest you'll ever meet when they purport to be new age, love and light, conscious, flowers in their hair. They're actually the military industrial complex embodiment. All right? But they don't deny it, the people that I've been talking to in the 3 months that I've been here. The fake hippies that are here, the fake love and light, the metaphysical shops, this, that, and the other. And that makes my job easier. That makes my job easier. All right, so you see what's happening here, and you got to understand that as this happens and will be driven by the intelligence communities, that they will replace this as the blueprint everywhere, using social media as the weapon to pull the trigger. So you'll see these flash mobs pop up. And again, I said this would happen before it started happening. And all of a sudden they'll pop up in, somebody's place outside the UK. It'll be a restaurant where they sell sandwiches called shawarma. They'll be selling shawarma sandwiches. Then all of a sudden you have 1,500 people possessed by the devil that were not raised right by their mom going, get out, get out, get out. When their government created the terror attacks and the wars to begin with, these people are literally being tortured alive for demons. Period. Now, anybody that doesn't understand the basics of life has probably trouble also with the English language and cannot debate me on any level whatsoever. So what you are dealing with, for those that are slow and lower than average IQ, are energy vampires. They have set the stage for innocent families to be pushed from one area to another, and now they're kicking in their door and they're dragging the women out by the hair, and these people here don't have people around them saying, bad stuff's happening across the planet, please don't be like them when you grow up. That's what's happening right now. They rule them through technology. The devil, Satan, whatever your cultural tradition happens to identify evil. But sadly, your average Muslim, but maybe now they figure it out since they're on the hot seat. They had it good for a while. But the average Christian, they actually can't talk about demons. Certainly in this town, they can't. They won't. They refuse to. They're only there to be a business, to basically, divvy out who they want to help versus who they don't want to help. When it comes to talking about the teachings of Jesus Christ, what's happening now in the Christ consciousness being crucified, people being thrown away that actually should be world leaders, they can't have that conversation. So new IRA plot violent campaigns to drive out migrants, time for civil war, right? And so the same forces that are organizing the black flash mobs attacking white people are the same forces organizing white people against Muslims in the UK. I mean, really, you're not that slow, are you? It's the same website called Facebook with an algorithm that they told you was weaponized 10 years ago. And these people are living so well with their ice cream as long as they and their immediate family would see, I could be the son of a white woman, which I am. But because I'm not actually her full blood, sure, she'll just focus on what happens with the Ukrainians. She'll just focus on what happens with this. But when she had me into the Nagel bloodline, the newest bloodline, they were so angry that the golden child was born. They were so upset. My Uncle Bruce just kept doing methamphetamines that come methamphetamines. They kept hallucinating that they were superior. N-word this, S-word this. They made sure that I was raised by white supremacists, that I would be broken before the world had a chance to tear its teeth into me. Now we're dealing with people that are the furthest thing from the teachings of Jesus Christ. Okay, so we'll continue on with the news. And God will bless me for saying the things that need to be said. And the people will flee, and God will take note and go, you really don't like my children, do you? Reasons for the outbreak of the Irish Civil War in 1922. So we're in a 100-year cycle. UK intelligence suddenly warns of civil war plot against migrants. Okay, and again, dealing with these level of mind control victims, anybody different is a migrant to them, if you understand the new America. And if you understand social media, we're already in a one world government that I warned you about when I was a baby, 25 years ago, when I began public speaking about the New World Order. Now the New World Order is here, brainwashing people around the world at the same time, and they actually think it's a conspiracy theory. They think it's a conspiracy theory to what? To be against AI? Now AI is coming for them, but they can't fight AI in the data centers because they don't have the intelligence to understand that there is something called evil in this world. And they got in bed with it. And now it's too late. They want to play this game of worshiping somebody as Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. You don't want to do that. But here we are having this conversation. So the AI data centers will be installed, and eventually these black souls will live inside the data centers. They won't end up getting a chance to have the afterlife. We try to warn you from the beginning, me and many great men that are now dead, that are basically prophets, that they're going to put you in the machine through sin. Through sin, through getting you to hate people that don't look like you, they're going to put you in the AI data centers. They already have your soul, which is why you're so wealthy and you're doing so well right now, some of you, because you're bought and paid for. We live in a world where they're making sure their kids don't know what's coming. We live in a world where they rather a bad man by the name of Bill, Job, who might have sinister intentions towards that child, gets close to that child. They have a mission, a lot of these mothers, to make sure these children are always afraid of me. They do not understand that the people that they're talking to are not against human trafficking. They don't even want to know those things exist. Okay, these people are evil to the core. They're afraid of me. They are bad mothers and bad fathers. Okay, and when you hide the reality of evil from your children, you're making sure, and I can tell as a psychic who's a part of that family, that they become the evil. Okay, my mother and my father failed to make me a system boy. My mother failed to make me gay. And so the reality is, they're calling decent men misogynists who are against human trafficking, while the actual misogynists get love. The actual misogynists get a kiss. The actual misogynists have children. Okay? So you have a bunch of really bad education out there. All right, let's move on. Let's take a look at the planetary K index. So what's the context? We're after the eclipse. We're after the alignment. We have the energy of Mars. And we have the media machine using the planetary energies for its own agenda. But we don't have a meetup that's inclusive, where people can speak their truth. We have modern cultists from Crestone to Salida to Portland to Dallas that demand conformity for socialization. We are the furthest thing from a love and light society. That's all for now. I'll be back with more. I bet you can't wait.